Welcome to U.S. Immigration TV. Now, did you ever enter the U.S., let's say years ago, leaving behind your spouse and children, and then hoping to find a way to legalize your status and bring them to the U.S. to be with you? Maybe now you're out of status, perhaps working one or two jobs, dutifully sending remittance back home to support your family, for food, education, and clothing. Perhaps you consulted with several attorneys who told you there is no hope because you're out of status and you just have to wait for amnesty. And in the meantime, you missed your family, especially your children, who are growing up without you. Now, is there any way you can finally be reunited with your family in the U.S.? Well, in this video, I'll answer that question, so make sure to watch until the end, and of course, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Well, sometimes the law simply does not allow people who are out of status to obtain their green card or adjust status in the U.S. And if a person is not eligible to adjust status in the U.S., they would typically have to return to their home country, such as the Philippines, on a provisional waiver if they're eligible, in order to avoid the 10-year bar. But what if you're not eligible for a provisional waiver? Must you continue to pray for a change in law or amnesty while continuing to be separated from your family and perhaps communicating with them only, let's say, through FaceTime, Viber, Zoom, or Skype? Now, a possible alternative solution is to find a way for your spouse back in your home country to be petitioned by an employer and immigrate to the U.S. legally, in which case your spouse could bring along your minor children. Many people in the U.S. who are out of status think that they are the only way or avenue for their family to legalize their status in the U.S. But remember, your spouse back home in your country is not out of status. They don't have any immigration violations. They could be petitioned and immigrate, let's say, on their own feet without having to rely on you. And remember, your spouse's eligibility for a visa is not dependent on your immigration status in the U.S. This is because they've committed no immigration violations and therefore cannot be punished for any of your violations, such as perhaps you're having overstayed, being out of status, committed fraud. And I remember I've had several cases. In one case, the husband immigrated through fraud. He was petitioned as single, but he was married, and he got his green card still as single. He was not able to petition his family because of fraud. Well, the wife was petitioned by an employer separately from him without relying on him. When she went to the embassy raised the issue, well, the husband committed fraud. And we convinced them, we said to them, okay, but she's committed no crime. You cannot punish her for whatever immigration violation the husband may have done. She's innocent, she's eligible, and the visa was issued. So, for example, if there is an employer in the U.S. with a bona fide or real job for which your spouse is qualified, that employer could perhaps petition her for a working green card from the Philippines. Maybe you're working at a care home and they need more caregivers. Perhaps suggest to your employer that your spouse could fill that position if she is qualified. In fact, I posted several videos on my YouTube channel, U.S. Immigration TV, about employment-based petitions, whether the person being petitioned is in the U.S. or outside the U.S. Now, while this may not result in you being able to legalize your own status right away because you're out of status, at least your spouse and your young children could come to the U.S. as green card holders. Then perhaps in 5 years, your wife could naturalize and then petition you. But at least, think about it, you would all be in the U.S. together instead of you here alone and lonely. Now, if this situation applies to you and your family, you may want to consult with an attorney who can evaluate your situation and see if your spouse could be eligible or qualified to be petitioned for a green card through an employment-based petition. If you found this video helpful for yourself, or maybe you know somebody in that situation, here alone, out of status, maybe immigrated through fraud, but the family's back home, make sure to share this video with them. And of course, subscribe to this channel. I'm Michael Gurfinkel, and thank you for watching U.S. Immigration TV.